Hello, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Victor Coriel, and I will be running for the position of secretary on the Glee Club e-board this year. The reason it took me so long to make my video was because I had a really big decision to make in my life at this point, and that decision was whether or not I wanted to continue being a member of the pit band. I'm sorry to say, Addison, but I will not be on the bus heading back with you to go to Heinz Field next semester. Rather, I will be taking that time to devote to my classwork and to the other ensembles that I am also a part of. Well, that's enough about my decision, but what is my platform anyway? I would like to start by giving you all some context about why I would be a good candidate for this position based on my previous experience. In high school, I maintained several positions at the same time senior year, including president of the Spanish Honor Society, vice president of the choir, the drum major of the marching band, the librarian for the choir, and for the symphony at the same time. Basically, if there was a group in the music department, I was involved. Out of all of those positions, one of my biggest organizational feats, you could say, was my compilation as the symphony librarian of the group's 1,200 piece library into an electronic format that was easily accessible by the directors, by me, so that music stopped getting lost and we didn't have to buy duplicate copies because there were just stacks and stacks of music. And at the end of the day, like, we were buying the same piece 12 times. So that organization is something that I hope to carry over into our group going forward if I become elected secretary. Needless to say, I'm a very organized person. Another fact that shows how organized I am is that as a freshman, I was able to balance a schedule filled with 10 classes and 8 groups over the course of this year. It's almost unheard of. I like to consider myself a schedule god sometimes. The various color-coded sheets of paper that are crammed in my desk drawer just attest to the amount of time I spend putting my schedule together at the beginning of each week in order to keep all my rehearsals and due dates in order. So going forward, I would like to create a similar schedule that the rest of the group will be able to use and will be extremely more effective than the previous schedules that we have been given, especially for those of us who are in multiple groups. Now on to the platform. As some of you know, the rules for Glee Club are changing next year, and these are per Lord Teaster's demands. However, as a secretary, I feel like it is important to be flexible and modern, if you will, in the way that the position is run. So I'm hoping to be a flexible and dynamic member of the e-board if I become elected. So how am I going to achieve this? Well, I have a 3-step plan that hopefully will change the position for the better, and which will work in conjunction with what the position already does. So how will I achieve being this flexible member of the e-board? Well, my first step is to improve communications. This year, Joe has done an amazing job keeping everyone up to date on current gigs, events, and Richard wishes, etc. In addition to these tasks, however, I would like to expand the role of secretary. If I am elected, I would like to make the decisions of eBoard more accessible and transparent to the general population of the Glee Club. Whether this means posting the minutes of our meetings to social media so that the group can peruse it or something else, I feel like it is a very important aspect of Glee culture that the eBoard is transparent. The reason for this is because around election time, as a freshman, I don't necessarily know who to vote for as much because I don't know who's doing their job the most effectively, who has good ideas, who's kind of not participating as much as they should. So in the end, I feel like it is important, especially for the freshman class, that during election time, the population of the Glee Club knows and understands who and what they are voting for. I have 2 more points that go along with this phase of my plan, and they both kind of involve communications with Richard. The first is that, as you know, memorization tests are going to be a regular occurrence in the group. So These will require scheduling and organization that was not previously assigned to anybody because it's brand new. So, as secretary, I feel like it would be another responsibility that should be headed by the office. Another communication aspect that I think is very important to the position of secretary is communication of the group with Richard. It is absolutely key to our success that the group talks to Richard about their concerns. Recently, I have been staying after rehearsals just to talk to Richard about how things are and how the rehearsal went, etc. And this has opened my eyes significantly to some of the issues that the group has as a whole, some of the good ideas that are going unfulfilled, and some of the overall frustration felt by both sides. So I feel if there is a better communication between director and choir, that the group will benefit as a whole because we will understand where each other is coming from and we can work on each other's strengths and weaknesses so that we can ultimately be the best choir that we can be. In order to achieve greater communication with Richard, I am proposing that closer to concert time, at the end of every Sunday rehearsal, everybody in the group fills out an index card with their concerns and what they would like to focus on, etc., and have them all be passed down the line, and I will collect them all. And from Sunday night into Monday, I will compile them all into a list and email that list to Richard, ranking the concerns from the most repeated to the individual case. So hopefully this will allow the shyer people in the group who don't necessarily have a voice whenever it comes to Richard asking a question, why is this not working? And you might know the answer because it could be you, but you're too afraid to ask for help or whatnot, which is fine. But there needs to be a way for you to get your voice out there. And so I feel like this note card system is a good way to get the shyer people involved in rehearsal planning and refining the sound of the group as a whole. Moving on to my second point, I would like to reform the way that information is distributed amongst the members of our group. Currently, the three methods of communication that we have with the group are the text messages by the secretary, the emails that are given out by eBoard, and Facebook posts by Richard. Now, these three information sources need to be either reduced to one concise location where all of the information can be found, or it needs to be uniform across each platform. There have been multiple instances where an email has said one thing, Facebook has updated itself 3 different times with different information, or the text messages aren't quite up to date with what the Facebook says, and so we get people showing up to rehearsal late, not showing up at all, or having 6 people show up to a gig where we really needed to show up to represent the group fully. So I propose that the information needs to be on a uniform platform in a more concise way and even perhaps distributed in physical form at rehearsal in order to ensure that all of this information is processed and accessed by everybody in the group. In addition to the release of information reform, I would like to discuss a point I alluded to earlier, which was the creation of a schedule from the beginning of the semester. Coming from someone like me, who was in 4 different groups this semester, which was insane, advanced planning is extremely, extremely important. And getting a uniform schedule at the beginning of the semester that lists all of the dates, all of the extra rehearsals, etc., is imperative because when it comes to conflicts with other groups, not going to get into that, but it is important to have some kind of ammunition to fight conflicts. For example, the HCC Glee Club event where some of us went to a church service, which wasn't important, it wasn't a paid gig. It could have been done by half the group just as fine. Went to Du Bois immediately after. And so this was a big stress on us, and some of you may know that I almost passed out during the concert, so It led to overexertion of some of the choir members, etc. So we were not producing our best possible sound because we were already tired that day. So if we had that gig on a calendar from the beginning of the semester that said, look, we are doing this from August. We know that we're doing this in August. So if Dr. Rice, for example, would like to schedule something on that day, she could tell the church, hey, I have these people that they can't show up that day. Can we do a different day or something of the like? But going along with that, I feel like schedules need to be conferred between Glee Club and other groups like a cappella groups, like HCC, for example, or instrumental groups. I feel like our schedule should be published in a way that lets the other directors know what we're up to, so that they can kind of schedule around it. Because ultimately, these groups are for our enjoyment. By having a more complete schedule at the beginning of the semester, we will also have the opportunity for students to submit conflict forms not days in advance, rather months in advance, so that we know how much of our group is going to be able to perform at these things so that we can plan accordingly. My third and final point involves that of social chair. In conjunction with this person to be elected, I would like to make more group parties / cross-group parties that will promote camaraderie between the musical community here at Pitt. While the setup will be the job of the social chair, I will use the information platform / platform, whichever we decide to go in the future, that we have access to inform everyone about upcoming gatherings so that we can increase numbers and ultimately create a closer knit group, because ultimately the closer the singers are to one another, the better they sing together. So that's really all I have to say. In the end, I really just want to better the group, because that is what's most important in the end. And because ultimately we are an amazing group of nice boys who are capable of producing an amazing sound. So thank you all for listening, and I will see you tomorrow.